The ever-composed Charles put on a performance to save a fallen woman. He settled the girl in a villa, paid off her debts, and opened a shop for her. Yet he never touched her. He only went over to have a meal each day. His friends couldn't understand why he would do this. He said, "I only seek this fleeting moment of leisure. When I return, I will still be Monica's good husband." Chapter 01. That day, the daughter fell ill. When Charles went downstairs, he asked, "Why hasn't Eva gone to school yet?" The daughter, who was having breakfast, looked up and said, "Dad, I'm sick." Charles paused, looked up at me and said, "What happened?" I said, "H1N1. Going to the hospital in a bit." "Is it serious?" "It's okay. The fever has already gone down." Charles nodded, relieved. "Then drive carefully. Call me if anything happens." He gave Eva a kiss, said goodbye to her, and then left. Aunt looked at me, hesitating to speak. I smiled and said nothing, just reminded Eva to eat quickly. I knew what she wanted to say. It was nothing more than the child was sick. And how could the father seem so unconcerned, only realizing it when the child was almost better? This seems abnormal for any normal family, but I have gotten used to it. So used to it that I feel indifferent. I packed up my things and drove Eva to the hospital. On the way, we encountered a car accident. A car in front suddenly exploded, causing 3 cars behind to collide in succession. I was the 4th car, and I braked in time, narrowly escaping disaster. I originally intended to turn the car around and leave, but unexpectedly, I saw Charles's car, the one he said he lent to a friend. I had previously asked him which friend it was. He said, "You don't know him." This answer is quite clever. A friend I don't know must mean we aren't close. If we aren't close, how could it reach the point of borrowing a car? But I didn't dig deeper, just assumed I was an easily fooled fool. Looking back now, he indeed lied. The person who got out of the car, I clearly know. Although we only met once, I still remembered her name, Vanessa. Vanessa anxiously checked the condition of the car and then started making a call. For some reason, I felt this call was for Charles. "Eva, watch some cartoons in the car for a while, and we'll go to the hospital later, okay?" The daughter nodded obediently, "Okay." "Mom." I parked the car on the side and waited. In less than half an hour, a black SUV sped towards us. A man from the car came down holding a coat. Vanessa seemed to see her anchor. Stumbling towards him, the man supported her, draping the coat over her shoulders, and pushed her into his car. I lost interest in what happened next. "Eva, sit tight. We're going to the hospital." Chapter 02. Vanessa. I have only seen her once, but before meeting her, I had already heard her name. Her name appeared alongside Charles, evoking a tale of charm. To be honest, it has been many years since anyone dared to approach Charles. Firstly, Charles keeps himself clean. Secondly, he and his wife share a deep bond. Once, someone foolishly crossed him. He not only terminated all collaborations with that person but also gave them a beating. If my wife misunderstands, just wait and see if I don't beat you to death. Thus, it remained quiet for many years. But not long ago, someone had a thought. "I guess it's because you've been married for so many years, and your child is already so big." They thought that Mr. Lou couldn't stand being lonely either, but it turns out they misjudged him. The one telling me this is Mr. Ye's wife. She said that night was particularly exciting. A little girl selling wine was wrapped in a quilt and sent in, just like an ancient emperor favoring a concubine. They believed that any normal man wouldn't be able to resist such temptation. But Charles went in and came out in less than 5 minutes, with a sullen face and a low atmospheric pressure all around. He first called his assistant to buy a dress for that girl, then had the assistant send her back. After that, he began to settle scores. It is said that he barged into the manager's office and beat him up. Then he called the police, claiming someone was soliciting, and had the person arrested. After that, he terminated all cooperation with that company. Mrs. Yi was half envious and half sighing. "Lou has always been so consistent with you." I smiled and exchanged pleasantries with her, but my heart sank deeper. Is it always the same? Not necessarily. Charles's attitude towards such matters, from an outsider's perspective, seems to be the same as before, but he concealed it from me. Just this point alone is abnormal. And then there's Charles's attitude towards that girl. If it were in the past, he wouldn't stay for more than 5 minutes, nor would he let his assistant clean up the mess. So I did a little investigation into that girl. I found that she had transformed from a barmaid into Charles's secretary. Chapter 03. I was still working in the study when Charles returned. Spent the day with Eva, and many things were delayed. Are you still busy? Then I'll rest for a bit. Wait for me in the living room after you finish your shower. I turned to look at him. Let's talk. Charles instinctively frowned. The atmosphere suddenly became a bit tense. He didn't say anything, just glanced at me lightly, closed the study door, and left. I don't know if he will wait for me. He really dislikes me speaking to him in that tone, just like he complains to his friends. As long as I start speaking like that, there will definitely be no good outcome. Today is obviously no different, but I don't want to argue with him, nor do I want to cause a scene. So, when I finished my work and saw him sitting in the living room, I said, "Care for a couple of drinks? We can chat while we drink." Charles raised an eyebrow. A truth-telling session? I chuckled. It's not that serious. Just a casual chat. His tense body relaxed, and he stood up to take a small piece of cake from the fridge. This was originally for Eva, but it seems she won't be enjoying it. He said, "You have a sensitive stomach, so eat a little first. Don't drink on an empty stomach." Actually, the atmosphere is quite good at this moment. Following this atmosphere, if we talk properly, we should be able to reach a conclusion. But just then, this cake suddenly appeared. Sure enough, I still overestimated myself. "Where did you buy it?" I asked him. Charles said, "A dessert shop I happened to pass by." "Isn't that Vanessa's?" When Vanessa got out of that car, I knew that Charles had not done what he promised me. After finding out that Vanessa had become Charles's secretary, I visited his company. That day was a coincidence. Charles wasn't there. I asked the assistant, "Where's Vanessa?" He was at a loss for words, looking very nervous. Later, I found her in Charles's break room. She was curled up on that single bed, covered with the cashmere blanket I bought for Charles. Her little face pale, as if she were sick. When she saw me, she looked flustered and hurriedly stood up. I asked her, "Where's Charles?" She bit her lip and said shyly, "I got my period, and my stomach hurts. Charles went to help me buy some painkillers and hot drinks." I nodded. "Then let's wait together." Taking care of a woman on her period. Charles is quite experienced, because from the first time I got my period, he was the one who made me brown sugar water. He would even blush and go buy me sanitary pads. He knows which painkiller works best. He also knows that women on their period have a poor appetite but like to eat sweets. So, he bought Vanessa a type of traditional Chinese medicine that I often take, and also brought her a cup of ginger date tea and a slice of red velvet cake. I handed the items to Vanessa /. This medicine works reasonably well. Although it doesn't take effect as quickly as painkillers, it has fewer side effects. If you really can't stand it, just take a sick leave. The company does offer some benefits. Vanessa nodded timidly. She looked at Charles and, seeing that Charles was silent, left with a disappointed expression while carrying the items. As soon as the office door closed, Charles called out to me, "Moni." I walked straight into the break room, took out the cashmere blanket, and threw it into the trash can right in front of him. Charles frowned. "You don't have to do this. I just feel sorry for her. There's nothing between us." "Who is she?" "The new secretary." "I asked you. Who is she?" This time, Charles fell silent. After a long while, he told me everything about him and Vanessa. He said she was a poor girl, and the reason she agreed to others was to pay off her father's gambling debt. She dropped out of school at a young age, couldn't find a proper job, and could only work at a bar selling drinks. Yet she was often harassed. That day I met her at the bar. She was being forced to drink. She is so young and should have a better life. Moni, I only helped her out of pity. Is that so? The suspicious point is that Charles rarely goes to bars. Yet, after Vanessa was sent to his room, he coincidentally ran into her at the bar. Was it really a coincidence, or did Charles deliberately go to the bar to find her? It's quite thought-provoking, but I didn't delve deeper, just nodded. I told him, quit it, get her a different job. Charles didn't hesitate at all. He agreed right away. He said he wouldn't have any contact with Vanessa again. He said he wouldn't betray me. I believed him, but I didn't expect that he not only kept Vanessa in the villa, but also opened a shop for her, a dessert shop. Chapter 04. My words plunged the atmosphere into a stalemate. Charles' demeanor slowly changed, from scrutiny to indifference. You investigated me? He said. Monica, that little girl is already pitiful enough. It's rude of you to do this. I sighed. Charles, you are in chaos. Caring leads to confusion. Otherwise, you should know that if I hadn't discovered anything, I wouldn't do anything unnecessary. I opened my phone and played the video recorded by the car surveillance in front of him. Some things are not hard to infer. Since she can drive your car, she definitely can stay in your house. So where is she working now? Charles did not open the video, only quietly lowered his gaze. After a long while, he exhaled a breath of turbid air. Whether you believe it or not, I did not cheat. I did not betray you. I just pity her. The place she lives in is constantly harassed by debt collectors, and she has nowhere to go. She should have a better job, instead of relying on selling herself for money. Moni, these matters are trivial to us, but they can change a girl's life. I was not patient enough to listen to him say these things, so I interrupted him. Do you like her? Charles looked at me with increasingly disappointed eyes. Is this all you think about when it comes to relationships between men and women? Monica, my relationship with her is innocent. You shouldn't spread rumors about a girl based on your unfounded assumptions. Charles, this really left me speechless. I had never thought he would say such shameless things. I always thought he was a smart man. One great advantage of a smart person is the ability to communicate. We understand what each other wants to express. We know it in our hearts. So we hit it off immediately. But when did Charles become someone I no longer recognized? His reactions did not meet my expectations. This will make the subsequent matters difficult to handle. But the arrow is on the string and must be released. I cannot let myself and my children fall into too embarrassing a situation. So I decisively spoke up. Charles, let's get a divorce. You can think it over. And when you're ready, we can discuss the details. Chapter 05. I realized long ago that divorce is a complicated matter. Unless both parties reach a consensus, it becomes a long-term battle. All along, I had not sensed any desire for divorce from Charles, until Vanessa appeared. For the first time, he showed so much interest in a girl other than me. Based on my understanding of him, it was either infatuation or the beginning of it. So I requested that he dismiss Vanessa. I thought he would refuse, but he agreed. Could it be that I was mistaken? Half a month ago, friends visited, and they spoke in the study. One person teased Charles. They say marriage is the grave of love, as the one with the most say. How do you feel about it now? Charles smiled wryly. I couldn't agree more. Huh? A friend exclaimed. What? Are you feeling itchy? Charles let out a sigh. Not exactly. It's just that if I had known marriage would be this boring, I might as well have played around for a few more years. Then why didn't you take the girl to your room when she offered to undress for you? That's a different matter. The friend dismissed it. What different matter? As long as you hide it well. What's wrong with having a little fun? This time, Charles fell silent. After a long time, he spoke in a tone. Let's talk about it later. Listening to these words, I closed the slightly ajar door and turned to leave. Charles was in the mood for some fun, whether it was because of that naked girl or the monotony of married life. He was thinking of cheating, and I couldn't wait for him to cheat before getting a divorce. So, before he cheated, I had to end this marriage. The thought of wanting a divorce left Charles silent for a long time. He just looked at me, as if he were looking at a spoiled child. Not only him, but I also thought about the past, the days when I frequently mentioned divorce. At that time, I was anxious, in pain, yet helpless. I relieved my emotions through arguments, exploding by bringing up divorce. But in reality, I didn't really want a divorce. I just didn't know what to do anymore. My relationship with Charles had reached a dead end, with no way out. I could only keep hitting the wall over and over again, until I was bloodied and broke through the wall. Charles let out a sigh. Moni, there really isn't anything between Vanessa and me. If it bothers you, I'll try not to contact her. Let's not talk about divorce anymore. I don't like hearing it. I also sighed. Charles, don't rush to answer me. Take your time to think about it. Do you really not want a divorce? After all, for you right now, divorce has more advantages than disadvantages. Chapter 06. That night, I parted ways with Charles unhappily. For the next week, he moved into the guest room, leaving early and returning late. Not saying a word to me, Eva smoothed out the wrinkles on the storybook. Mom, when will Dad come home? What's wrong? I want to read the storybook with Dad. Can't Mom read it with you? The little girl looked at me and said, but I want to watch this with Dad. A pang of bitterness surged in my heart. It seemed I could no longer afford to wait passively. The villa where Vanessa lives is not far from our home. It was given by someone during the debt settlement. I went to the security room, using the excuse of a lost item, and requested to review the surveillance footage with the security guard. During this week, Charles came every day without fail, driving in during the afternoon and leaving 1 or 2 hours later. Now, there is less than an hour until he arrives. The main gate has a password lock. I have long forgotten what the password is. I can only knock on the door. The door was quickly opened, and a bright little face peeked out. Why are you today? Seeing me, the smile on her face froze, and she stood there in a daze, looking at her wearing an apron. I asked, are you cooking? Vanessa clutched the hem of her clothes. Miss Sue. I nodded and stepped aside as she walked in. Vanessa followed me and asked, Miss Sue, do you have something to discuss? I'm sorry, I said. I need to reclaim the rights to this house. You have an hour to pack your things. Is that enough? Do you need me to help you find a moving company? By the way, about that dessert shop, do you want to return the startup funds to me? Or should I take back the shop? Vanessa opened her eyes wide. The original caution turned into anger. What right do you have? I smiled and said, this is marital property. Vanessa fell silent. She took a step back and shook her head. Miss Sue, this is between me and Charles. You have no right to interfere. All right. Then let's wait for him. I found a place to sit down, while Vanessa remained standing. After an unknown amount of time, she broke the silence. Miss Sue, do you know how much Charles doesn't want to go back to that home? Oh, how much does he not want to? She curled her lips, her eyes filled with sarcasm. She said he would rather work overtime at the company, rather go to the club to drink. Do you know that he smokes in the car for half an hour every day after getting home before going inside? Miss Sue, actually, my relationship with Charles is not as sordid as you think. He just wants to relax here. He is under too much pressure, and I can help him unwind. Do you want to strip away his last bit of space? Miss Sue, you make your husband not even want to come home. How much of a failure are you as a wife? Did you hear that? I suddenly spoke up. What? Vanessa looked confused. I raised my phone and said to the person on the other end, Charles, did you hear what your little girl said? The other side was silent. I continued. I can't imagine how devastated I would be if I still loved you and heard those words. But fortunately, I no longer love you. Charles, I don't love you anymore. Let's get a divorce as soon as possible. I'll give you 2 days to think it over. And if I don't get the answer I want, I'll file a lawsuit. Chapter 07. That day, Charles ultimately did not stay at Vanessa's place for dinner. When he returned, not only Eva, but even the aunt was surprised and quickly cooked 2 more dishes. At the dining table, Eva was very excited, chattering nonstop about the fun things in kindergarten. Charles rarely didn't tell her, talk less during meals. After dinner, we accompanied Eva to play games together. She pulled Charles to look at the storybook she had kept for a long time, and finally fell asleep contentedly. Coming out of Eva's room, we tacitly went to the living room. This time it was Charles who spoke first. Moni, there are some things I don't know how to tell you. Instead, a chance encounter like Vanessa allows me to vent a little. Moni, There really is nothing between Vanessa and me. You can see our relationship as a quid pro quo. I provide her with help, and she acts as my emotional garbage can. Nothing more. Moni, I don't want to bring negative emotions home to you. I always think that I just need this moment of leisure. And when I get home, I will still be a good husband to Monica. Men and women seem to be forever out of sync. Once, I was very eager to hear Charles's true thoughts, but he was always reluctant to tell me, even finding me neurotic. But now, when he starts to confide in me, I feel disgusted. Charles, can we not talk about this? What do you think about the divorce I mentioned? My obstinacy makes Charles irritated. Why must it be divorce, you say, and I will change? I also don't understand. Why do you refuse to divorce? You heard what Vanessa said today. She has those thoughts. Once the window paper is pierced, the rest will follow naturally. Doesn't your current life feel very dull? Isn't divorce the best option? My words were too blunt. Charles rarely showed such embarrassment on his face. He clenched his fists, looked away, and growled. I never thought about divorce. I leaned back. Then you really should think it over. Charles, our bond is deep. The relationship between the two families is here, with many connections in the project, along with various investments. Most importantly, we have Eva. If we can part amicably, let's not wait until things get ugly. Otherwise, it will be too embarrassing. I genuinely suggest that if you want to cheat, you should divorce first. I said, I never thought about divorce, and I won't cheat. Why don't you believe me? My patience is gradually wearing thin. What do you want in order to agree to a divorce? Charles gritted his teeth. I won't divorce. Why? Because I love you. Charles's words made me unable to bear it, and I closed my eyes. I gritted my teeth. Don't love me. I beg you. Don't love me. Charles and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. From school uniforms to wedding dresses, we were each other's first love and also each other's only. Along this journey, Charles has told me countless times that he loves me. The initial thrill of love, the gentle tenderness upon hearing it again, that feeling of possessing the happiness of the whole world had captivated me for a long time, until Charles shattered all of it. After one drunken night, he told me that he still loves me, but he does not love Eva. Without you, Eva means nothing to me. Is this considered a love confession? No. It sends chills down my spine. If a person cannot even love their own child, then they should only love themselves. Charles, actually, life for you now should be quite comfortable, aside from being a bit boring, right? After all, I don't ask you to come home early. I don't ask for your companionship. I don't check your whereabouts. I don't interfere with your plans. You've easily become a father to a 5-year-old child. You have a family and children. Yet you don't have to give anything in return. So, is it because you are the beneficiary that you can still say with such confidence that you won't get a divorce after doing so many outrageous things? Here we go again! Here we go again! Charles shouted angrily. Can we just stick to the point and not bring up old issues? Monica, this is really pointless. Are we just talking about the matter at hand? Good. The fact that you want to cheat is already a given. Whether it's Vanessa or someone else, your relationship with Vanessa has already exceeded the bounds of a normal man-woman relationship. I have reasonable suspicion that you have already cheated. I haven't, Charles shouted. I let out a cold laugh. I don't believe you. What would it take for you to believe me? No matter what. I won't believe you. Charles glared at me angrily. Monica, you're being unreasonable. I nodded. So what? Charles, since I've already filed for divorce, I will do whatever it takes to get out of this marriage. You can take my words as a threat. Charles was expressionless. I continued. Or to put it more clearly, your company is at a critical time for going public. You might want to consider whether exposing the scandal would cause more harm, or if a peaceful divorce would be less damaging. At that moment, Charles fell silent. I had said everything I could. Now it was up to Charles to choose. He seemed like he hadn't slept all night. In the middle of the night, I went downstairs to get some water and could vaguely see the light coming from the crack under the study door. The next day, we took Eva to kindergarten together. When Eva went inside, Charles said to me, I agree. If this is what you want, then I will satisfy you. Chapter 08. My divorce with Charles went smoothly. Things turned out as I expected. As long as he agreed, everything became simple. Originally, I didn't intend to take too much advantage of Charles in the property division, but he ended up giving me more than half of his fortune. It seemed he noticed my confusion. He took a drag from his cigarette and said lightly, "Consider it a gift for Eva." I didn't refuse. I accepted it. Our divorce was not hidden from anyone. Soon, both sets of parents knew. At first, they were furious. They don't understand why we, who seem so smooth on the surface, would get a divorce. Charles glanced at me and said, "It's a lack of emotional harmony." My dad slammed the table and said, "Are you sure it's not because of another woman?" Charles's parents looked puzzled and asked, "What other woman?" My mom, with a stern face, said, "The woman he keeps in a villa in the western suburbs." Faced with the disappointment of his parents and the questioning from my parents, Charles grew increasingly agitated. "I have nothing with her. I just feel sorry for her. Believe it or not." My mother held my hand, looking at him with an extremely cold gaze. "The beggar by the roadside is also very pitiful. Why don't you bring them home?" This sentence left Charles stunned. His expression was complicated. His gaze towards me was hesitant, as if he wanted to say something. Charles moved out of the villa. I didn't make him avoid Eva. Eva held my hand and asked, "Is Dad going on a business trip?" I shook my head and told her, "Dad won't live here anymore, but if Eva wants to see Dad, she can call him. Dad will also take time every month to take you out to play. Okay?" Eva nodded obediently. When leaving, Charles held Eva for a long time, with a sense of reluctance. Later, I had the aunt take Eva inside. I knew Charles had something to say to me. He smoked a cigarette, looking somewhat dejected. He said, "Do we really have to come to this point? Can't we start over?" I sighed. "How can we start over? Eva is already 5 years old. You missed her first steps. You missed her first words. Do you even remember what her first sentence was? Do you remember when she first called you Dad? What's missed is missed. There's no way to start over." Charles smiled slightly, his face full of sarcasm. "Here we go again. You always bring up our relationship as Eva. But Monica, before I was Eva's father, I was first your husband." "Yes, that's right. But I no longer love you, and I don't expect any changes or compensations from you as a husband. I just hope you can still be a good dad. But if you can't, that's okay. Adults. After all, it's normal for hopes to be dashed." Charles's actions made his father very angry. He took back Vanessa's shop and kicked Vanessa out of the villa, including that car. Swift and decisive. Not only did Vanessa get nothing, but Charles's father also punished Charles. On that day, Eva was also there. When Charles's father was hitting him with a stick, Eva rushed over. She cried out, "Grandpa, don't hit Dad. Dad hurts." The little girl cried pitifully, her eyes swollen. I held her already red and swollen little arm with a pained heart. Outside the hospital room, Charles stood there hunched over, his hands hanging at his sides trembling. He looked at me helplessly. I didn't expect Eva to rush over. "It's all my fault. I didn't protect her well, because Eva was hurt." The Liu family was thrown into chaos. I know no one did it on purpose. I can't blame anyone either. It's just that I still feel a bit sad. "Charles, Eva loves you very much." But you don't love her." "I don't." Charles looked panicked, vehemently denying it. "Eva is timid, afraid of pain, and stubborn. She cries and makes a fuss every time she goes to the hospital. That's why you don't like to accompany her." Once during a blood test, the nurse was holding me down, and she was annoyed. She questioned me, "Where is the child's father? Wasn't he just here? Why is he gone now?" "At that time, you were outside smoking, and you rejected my call, but you care about Vanessa." She said that when she tested positive for the second time, you were there with her, staying the whole night. Do you know how many nights I stayed with Eva when she was coughing, congested, and had a fever? I wiped away the tears at the corners of my eyes with a blank expression. "But it's okay. Eva is only 5 years old. You can make it up. I won't tell her that you don't love her. You can still be her good dad. But just one thing. Her stepmother can be anyone. Except Vanessa. Charles was taken aback and quickly said, "How is that possible? I and Vanessa." I interrupted him. "I know you still have contact. I'm just telling you. If you are with Vanessa, I will try to convince Eva not to recognize you as her dad." Charles gripped my hand tightly. "Moni, you still care, don't you?" His eyes were full of expectation. I was stunned for a moment, but quickly understood what he meant. I pushed his hand away with a smile. "I didn't investigate you, nor did I investigate her. She added me on WeChat to tell me. By the way, can you make her stop bothering me in the future? I don't care how good you are to her." Vanessa said Charles gave her 500,000 and found her a new job. She said, "He has always cared for me. Now that you two are divorced, I will take good care of him." But she was being too clever for her own good. A man wants to save a fallen woman, someone who is pure, virtuous, and dignified, not someone with ulterior motives. Now that her true intentions are revealed, having lost her grace, the man must be disappointed. Sure enough, Charles recovered the 500,000 and made her sign an IOU, demanding repayment for the money he had previously lent her. Charles said, "I am not being nice to her. I just want to do the right thing in the end. I just want to help people to the very end. Moni, it was my fault." Chapter 09. He said, "I shouldn't have made you so sad because of Vanessa." I laughed and said, "Actually, it's not that bad." "What?" "Vanessa's appearance. Rather than making me sad, it is more about making me embarrassed. To care for other women while being married is quite humiliating. It's like being publicly shamed in front of everyone. Really embarrassing." I don't know where my words hit Charles. He quietly looked at me for a long time. Finally, he said, "So you really don't love me anymore?" He looked like he was very sad. He asked me, "When did you start not loving me?" I shook my head. "I don't remember." "So when did you really start wanting a divorce?" I thought for a moment, maybe since the last time I mentioned divorce. That was 2 years ago. That time we went out for a picnic with friends, bringing the kids along. When encountering peers, Eva was a bit excited and knocked over the condiments meant for the barbecue while running around. At that time, I was worried Eva would get hurt, but Charles directly kicked Eva down. He was very angry. Whenever Eva was a bit out of control, he would fly into a rage. But I didn't expect him to hit a child in public. And for the first time, I scolded him in public. Because I scolded him, he left the country for half a month without a word. Eva contracted norovirus, vomiting and diarrhea, and I couldn't reach him. His mother had appendicitis, and I took her to the hospital in the middle of the night, but I still couldn't reach him. Later he came back, as if nothing had happened, saying he brought me a gift, and I just looked at him and said, "Let's get a divorce." That was the most resolute I had ever been about divorce. I insisted for a week, but you never relented. You refused to divorce. You coaxed me, coaxed Eva, just like countless times before, saying you were wrong, saying you would change. Then I relented and said, "Forget it. Let's not divorce." But Charles, that time wasn't because you had coaxed me back. It was simply because I was exhausted. You disagreed with the divorce, so I could only file a lawsuit. But suing is too troublesome. Without an agreement between both parties, it could take years of hassle. This process is too draining, so I gave up. At the same time, I also gave up my demands of you. Requirements are also a troublesome thing. With requirements come expectations. When expectations are not met, one becomes sad. Rather than this, it would be better not to make any demands from the very beginning. These past 2 years have been smooth for us. I no longer require you to do anything, nor do I expect any changes from you. But I have been waiting for you to show signs of wanting a divorce. I firmly believe you will cheat, and I look forward to your infidelity. I am just waiting to reach an agreement with you before you stray. Someone once commented on my relationship with Charles. They said it was too smooth to last long. Men, you know, like excitement and conquest. If a relationship is too smooth, it loses its challenge. Things that are easily obtainable are often not cherished. At first, I was indifferent. I believe that we could sail smoothly through life because our feelings for each other are strong. We love each other deeply. Young people are like this. They think they are the only lucky ones in the world. Others may never encounter love in their lifetime, but I absolutely can. But they forget that love is like a ghost. We always hear about it, yet no one has ever seen it. Times change, and once vowed promises will fade. All passionate fervor will eventually return to the mundane, especially for someone like me and Charles, who were originally calm and untroubled. But it's okay. Love is just a stage in life. Losing it during that stage can be very painful, but once you reach the next stage of life, it's just a fleeting sense of loss. We are always moving forward. We will always move forward. Chapter 10. After the divorce, Charles became a good dad. He takes Eva out to play once a week. This makes Eva very happy. They go to amusement parks and zoos, and Charles takes her to experience things I couldn't. Just like Eva said, Dad can lift me on his shoulders so high. But I'm not afraid. It's quite ironic. The goals I once struggled to achieve were effortlessly attained after the divorce. But I also feel a sense of relief. Sand cannot be held tightly. Rather than suffering and tormenting others, it's better to let go. One day Eva secretly said to me, Dad always wants me to ask Mom to go out together. But I don't want to. I curiously asked her, why? She said, because Mom doesn't want to go. Charles' desire to remarry is almost obvious. Many of our mutual friends assume that we will eventually get back together. After all, with so many years of feelings, it's not something that can just be let go. Charles said, I have patience. One day I will win you back. Moni, I will change. I will become the person you want me to be. Just wait for me. I told Charles not to waste his efforts, but he wouldn't listen. Until I started dating a boyfriend. In a fit of rage, Charles wanted to take action, but the other person was younger and stronger. With red eyes, he begged me not to leave, begged me not to treat him this way. You can punish me however you want. Just Moni, I beg you, don't do this. I can't take it. He said he couldn't stand me being with others, and he couldn't stand Eva calling someone else dad. I promised him, don't worry. You will always be Eva's dad, and Eva will only have you as her dad. But that's all it was limited to. As for everything else, it had nothing to do with him. Charles didn't understand. What exactly did I do wrong for you to treat me like this? Monica, am I really that unforgivable? This question completely wiped the expression off my face. There are many things in this world that come without a price, because there is no price. Those who are hurt do not even deserve an apology. Charles, you should really think about all these years we've had. You might still owe me and Eva an apology. However, not every I'm sorry can be exchanged for it's okay. Chapter 11. Charles is very busy. Although he has started his own business, he is gradually taking over family matters. He needs to frequently work overtime and travel for business, so he cherishes the time alone with Monica very much. But ever since they had a child, they rarely have their own world together. Eva is hard to take care of, full of energy and loves to cry. Even with a nanny and a postpartum doula at home, Charles still hears her crying every day. That high-frequency noise repeatedly assaults Charles' eardrums, driving him to distraction. Charles remembers that it was when Monica was in her postpartum period. One night, after returning home from a social event, he immediately heard Eva's cries. He asked the postpartum doula why she wasn't soothing the baby. The postpartum doula smiled and said it's normal for a little baby to cry occasionally. Seeing him return, Monica was very happy and urged him to come over and see their daughter. Charles didn't want to go, but he couldn't directly say he wasn't going, so he suppressed his irritation and entered the nursery. Monica asked him to hold the baby. He did, but as soon as he held her, she let out a loud cry. The crying made Charles' temples throb. In the next moment, he threw the baby onto the crib. At that time, Charles didn't think there was anything wrong with his behavior. He felt he knew what he was doing. He wasn't far from the crib when he threw her, and the bed was so soft. Nothing could go wrong. But Monica went crazy. She was stunned for a few seconds and screamed in silence. She trembled as she held her daughter, her gaze at Charles almost wanting to crush him to pieces. That was the first time Charles had seen such irrational behavior from Monica. She told Charles to get lost. She cried and said she would call the police, claiming Charles was going to kill her child. That was the first time Charles felt that Monica was like a madwoman. Then there was a second time, a third time. At that time, one thing Monica often said was, "Charles, let's talk." Charles hates this sentence. Here it comes again. Here it comes again. He doesn't think there's anything worth discussing, nor does he feel he did anything wrong. Why should I spend time with the child? She's so young. What does she understand? Isn't there a nanny and a postpartum doula at home? Why go through all this trouble? What's wrong with him coming home late? Working during the day is already stressful enough. I can't rest at home either. He's already hiding. Why can't they just leave him alone? But Monica always follows him, nagging, just like Xianglin's wife in Lu Sun's writing. In the past, Charles didn't understand. Xianglin's wife was indeed very unfortunate. So what was wrong with her expressing her pain? But later Charles slowly realized that it was really annoying. A person cannot fully empathize with another person. I might still feel heartache the first time you said it. Perhaps I was still moved the second time you said it. But by the third and fourth times, hearing the same words over and over again only leaves me with resistance. This oppressive, uninteresting, and painful life, Charles thought would continue indefinitely, until one day, he suddenly realized that Monica hadn't called him in a long time, and his life had become much more carefree. No one to restrain him, no one to interfere. He also didn't need to invest any time or energy. Everyone said Monica was a good wife. Charles also deeply agreed, but married life was still just as dull. So dull that when Vanessa was sent to his room, he actually became curious about her experiences. He listened to Vanessa crying about her past, talking about her encounters in the bar. She said, "It doesn't matter anymore. No matter how I struggle, it doesn't matter. I just want to pay off my father's gambling debt and leave with a clear conscience." At that moment Charles felt a pang of compassion. He thought that a girl so young, beautiful, and at her wits' end deserved a better life. So he went to that bar and witnessed Vanessa's tragic beauty with his own eyes. I want to save her. That was Charles' thought at the time. Looking back, how absurd it was. If Charles were an observer, he would think that a man doing this was a fool. Is there really such a thing as pure friendship between men and women? There are so many people in this world who need saving. Why her in particular? If she were a crooked, pockmarked ugly hag, would you still save her? After all, it's just a knife hanging over the word lust. Vanessa is advancing cautiously. Vanessa is plotting against him. When Charles discovered these truths, he was not surprised. He recovered the 500,000 he gave to Vanessa. He also made her sign an IOU, requiring her to repay the 800,000 he helped her with. Vanessa mocked him. Do you think that by doing this, your wife will come back? Do you really think your divorce was because of me? I don't have that much power. You were just willing to be deceived. As for your wife, she never cared about me from the beginning. Oh no, she never cared about you either. Monica no longer loves him. One person after another reminded him like this. Charles doesn't want to admit it, but he has to admit it. He had long since lost Monica. What are you planning to do in the future? Someone asked Charles. Charles smoked and said in a hoarse voice, just raise evil well. Are you still getting married? Probably not. His marriage buried his love. Marriage is too boring.